Hello, and welcome to this live stream of me doing arts. If you like that sort of thing, you know, pretty cool, I guess. Put the regular music back on here, and turn down sound a smidgen, and then we will start with the arts. So this is a comic that I am working on for Webtoons. I already have one Webtoon comic, so why should I be starting another one? I don't know, because I want to. I'm not sure. My current Webtoons comic is called Peter the Problematic Person. It comes out sporadically, as will this one, but there's something just to mess around with and get my work out there for people to hopefully enjoy. As you can see, this one is called Swords and Sails. It is about pirates. I'm hoping that people will like it. And today we're going to be coloring it. Now, I'm a terrible colorist, but I'm trying to get better. So I used the program Clip Studio Paint. And I said, Clip Studio Paint, why don't you color it for me? Let's see how that would look. This is what they came up with. It's not terrible. You know, the computer deciding to paint it there. Let's go, need that light on. Maybe I do. Maybe that was adding a lot. But this one, do I need this one? Alright. There's a hole in my head. So, obviously, here we have the computer's attempt, and it's like, okay, this looks like it's at night. How did they know it was at night? This looks like a flash of a gun. It's got red here and a brightness, and the darkness over. I don't know. They definitely did. I just realized I was using the mouse on a screen you can't even see, so I was pointing to things that you can't see. That's all. That's all good. But obviously, I'm not gonna use that coloring. It's a little too crazy for me. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna do something cool, which I found this DC color guide that somebody made. Looks like it's from superedcoblogs.blogspot.com, based on something that was copyrighted by DC. DC, don't sue me. But they've got these different color swatches, so I'm gonna sample these, and that's what I'm going to use to color it. So we'll see. There's different reds and stuff and browns. Looks pretty cool. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start out with sampling this red, and then we're going to come back here and we're going to start selecting red areas. So that should be fun to watch me do that. Actually move this thing. That's like right in the way. Oh well. There's probably a way to move it, but I do not know what that way is. So, yeah. So we're just gonna stick with however it is. That microphone's closer. It's a little bit further away than usual. Let's move it even closer than usual. That's very intimate, isn't it? Like just whisper and you can hear me? Isn't that creepy, maybe? Alright, stupid thing. Let's do bigger selection here. So, I don't know if you knew this, but the other day, this artist that I listen to all the time when I'm doing art, which you guys are probably tired of, but I'm like so used to it now that I don't know if I could actually do art without it. Pogo is his name. He's pretty rad. Anyways, Mr. Pogo's channel got hacked by some crazy nonsense people, and they were like, I went on there to watch something, and his channel was totally gone, replaced with a single live stream which you couldn't comment on and or do anything with to interact, and it was of some stupid crypto currency thing, and these hackers were just hacking it all up like it was nobody's business, stealing other people's accounts. And I felt really bad for Mr. Pogo because that's revenue he lost, you know. And unfortunately, he's got it back now, so his channel's back. But you can't really undo that damage. And so it was kind of like, dang, man, I wanted to listen to those songs. I wanted to watch the videos, and I didn't want to watch them on other people's channels. Some, you know, they're re-uploads or whatever they were that people had done at some point. I wanted to watch it actually on his channel to support the guy. And I could not. Alright. I think maybe this other guy over here is pants red, but we'll see. For now, we're just sticking with these areas. And then we're going to drop some color in there.
That was a nice thing to hear.
Alright. We'll fix those later. So, this is how we're doing it. Today, at least. Just go in here and erase this part. So what I'm doing is I'm actually making these in a traditional layout. Yeah, so I'm making this in a traditional layout first, and then I will go back and edit it for Webtoons. I'm trying to do all my Webtoon art, well, at least with this one, in a traditional way first. So then, if I ever want to do a layout to print this at some point, which maybe, Farmer Dan says, I saw that Pogo thing. That's cool, Farmer Dan. Fan of Pogo. But what was I saying before I was so rudely interrupted by Farmer Dan? I'm just kidding. Yeah, so if I ever think about maybe getting this printed, I've thought about maybe adding this to the back of maybe the book, the other comic book I'm working on that I'm actually thinking about really getting printed. So we'll see if maybe it is a stretch goal or something. I can add this. Why? I don't know. Maybe it ties into the story. Who knows? Maybe there's a pirate in the comic I'm working on. Get off my back, you know? but I'm enjoying this pirate thing. I just decided to draw it. So I had drawn this character, this main character here, and I come up with the name months ago, but I didn't know if I'd actually do anything with it. And so I don't know. I wanted to draw something the other day. I was inspired by something I was watching to actually attempt to make something new. And so I did. I drew this, and I've drawn another one that I haven't scanned yet. That happens after this. So, don't want to spoil it for you, right? But this is all done with paper and ink, and then I scanned it in, and this is the result. But I had to make some corrections with some of this opaque white, basically whiteout stuff, and it actually like did a really good job when I scanned it, not coming up with what was underneath it, or showing that it had been whited out at all. So I had to make a few little corrections where I hadn't really used the whiteout as well. But hey, looks pretty good. Farmer Dan says it looks cool. Well, thank you, Farmer Dan. I appreciate your comments. That's very, very kind. All right. So we've got the red for now. Oh, no, we don't. Look what I forgot down here. Right here. Forgotten memory here. So I scanned this at 600 DPI. I have no idea if that was the right thing to do or not. Because, I don't know, I wanted the image pretty big and high quality. I don't know. What I do know is when I put it into the Webtoons format, it's going to shrink down. At least I hope so. Oh, I hope it's big enough where it's shrinking down, or else I'm going to lose quality. We'll find out. We'll see. It's all a learning process for me because this isn't. I mean, I'm figuring this out as I go. I'm trying to get better at this. I'm trying to improve. But you never know if people are going to react positively to it or negatively when you're just flying by the seat of your pants. So I'd like the positive feedback. I mean, everybody does, right? All right. I think I see a couple areas that need to be touched up here. It would help if I was not selected to that. So I see people coloring, and I'm too lazy. There's videos on how to color correctly using Clip Studio Paint put out by the actual company in English, even though it's a Japanese company. And I, for whatever reason, have not watched them. I like turn them on and be like, oh, that's a really good tip. And then I turn it off right after that good tip. And then I forget the tip. So I should actually sit down and watch those at some point. Hypebot says, Slowed Veil 52924 is now following. I don't even know. Oh, that's on Mixer. Why, thank you, Slowed Veil 52924. I appreciate your follow. Hopefully you can stick around and see what I'm doing here with my little art thing here. Just arting pretty hard today on this. So the idea of why I'm using these. Hey, yeah, thanks for following. The idea of why I'm using this DC color guide is I really like the old school coloring, and I wanted to kind of stick with that simple coloring to go with my simple art. But we'll see how it turns out. So far, so good, right? I mean, that red looks okay. Probably should mute other. So I have both a Mac and a PC on this desk, and I'm currently being texted. And so, since I have an iPhone, the notification is popping up on my Mac. So if you hear that beep, that's what that was. All right, let us now go through and select this dude's face. I tried to put the chat so that it would display on the screen against, but it's not. I don't know. I did it wrong. I should go back and look at it, but I always forget as soon as I'm done streaming to check those things that I think of while I'm streaming. It's terrible. It's terrible of me. I have such a terrible memory for that kind of thing. For tasks I need to do. I have a good memory for random memory, but not for things that I actually need to accomplish or change or anything like that. Go to this DC color guide here. Which one of these colors to use? And so the RGB looks different than the CMYK, but I'm trying to do it all in CMYK. I guess this one is the skin tone. Guess we'll find out, huh? Boom! Looky there. Looky there. We got it. All right. So, just go and touch up these areas where it didn't quite hit, where the selection wasn't selecting. Once I get all this stuff laid out, these flats, I'll probably go back in and fix this stuff with some more shading. Maybe. We'll see. I mean, if I really want to look like an old comic, there won't be any of that, right? We'll see. I thought about maybe trying to find a filter or something to put over it to make it actually look like old paper, but I don't know. Maybe not. Now, I've listened to this song so many times now, and I don't think I've ever enjoyed it. It's probably the one song of Pogo's I'm not a fan of. So that's his hand. I think that I'm going to make his pants blue. My little main character here. Let's go with this blue here. So we're just going in here. We're coloring his pants. Let's see what the... Does a pretty good job. I mean, It looks interesting, right? The computer colors, if you remember I showed this in the beginning. I don't know. I mean, maybe I should just stick with that, right? So we've got all the skin. They're crossing swords here, and I should put some sort of color here. Maybe I'll put like gold. And of course I've got this other stuff over here. I've got a color. Ugh. Ugh. So much work. Oh, I noticed some skin here I missed. Let's go back in there. What? Oh, that's blue. Why am I so messed up? Forgot we'd moved on to the blue. So like I said, I'll probably go back in and shade these later, and then I'll separate the panels to make it better for the Webtoons format, which should be fun. Just texting somebody here real quick. All right, put that away. So the Webtoons format is kind of fun to play with because you can do a lot more. You can play around with the layouts, and it's quite different than your standard comic book panel, which is fun. It's fun to do that. So I have done some interesting stuff on Peter the Problematic Person. At least I think it's interesting. You know, it's not something I'd normally do. Breaking panels and stuff like that's not really my thing. But on Webtoons, it kind of makes sense because you're trying to get people to look down instead of across and down. In a normal comic book, obviously, it goes from left to right, and your eyes then go down to the next part and across again. That's the idea. Sometimes people change up layouts and maybe it goes like this down, then across over here, or maybe there's a long panel here, and then you're supposed to go over here. But with the Webtoons, you can just go down like this forever. So you can do a little bit of left to right stuff, but you're mostly zagging and zigging down, and you want people to continue to flow down. So then you can have things break the panel and keep people going next to the next panel. So up here you'd have action. You know, let's actually draw something. Somebody with a gun. And they're shooting. Right? Well, let's say maybe we have like an explosion from the gun. Some smoke trailing off. Whatever. That smoke can go up here. Then you have to have something to keep the flow going down here. So you put the shell casing maybe. Yeah, the shell casing, that'd be cool, right? So you can have like a shell casing falling down, and then you get to the next panel and maybe the shell casing is hitting the ground and bouncing up or something. So you can do all that kind of crazy stuff that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do the same exact way in a normal standard comic book. So I think it works. I think Webtoons stumbled onto something that actually makes web comics and things like that more fun to read. When I read things on like Comixology, I'd rather just have the paper book in my hand. But when I read a Webtoon thing, I'm actually satisfied because we're so used to that scrolling, just scrolling down, that I think it really works. I think I'll do yellow next. this yellow up here. Looks good. I kind of like the idea of what I talked about earlier with the filter, using a filter to make this look older than it is. So I forgot. I drew this flash here. As I stumble over my words, I drew this flash here coming out of the gun, and then I drew this other one that I liked better after that. But I already inked the first one. I thought, well, I could go back in and change it, and we can see how that looks. So what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of actually doing it, we're going to go up here with this blank layer, and we're going to just put some white over it. It's a good thing about doing this. And also the smoke doesn't make any sense, because the smoke probably not going to come out of the gun faster than the bullet, right? Silly me. I mean, I like the smoke. I think it looks cool, but that didn't make any sense. But you know, I'd already inked it, and then I thought, oh geez, why is the smoke coming out of the gun faster than the bullet? I liked the smoke, but I'd have to do another panel with just the gun and then the smoking, which maybe I'll do for the Webtoons version. So there's how it looks. Is there enough going on in the panel though now? That's the question. And with the way I'm trying to color these as simple, I can't like take, well I can, but I choose not to, right? Because that's the way I'm trying to do the comic. I can't just take and like, you know. Well, you get the gist. Hopefully. I can't just take and go like that, you know? Because then it sort of breaks the idea of what I'm trying to do. We'll see. There's no deadline for this. No one's paying me to make this. Except for like one person, and they'd pay me regardless on my Patreon. So if you'd like to donate to my Patreon, I think there might be a link on what you're watching. If not, it's patreon.com/flyfoxpro. I'd love your money. So we'll leave it like that for now. We'll come back to that last panel. I'll try to figure out the background of this first one. Let's finish up this first one with its initial colors, and then we'll start messing around with some shadows and stuff. We'll see what that looks like. And then later on, we'll get to the other stuff. So I'm thinking like a purple background and not black, because it's at night. That's why there's light, you know, during a storm. So I'll try this purple, and let's see how that looks. Let's do the selection. That should be faster than just painting it all with little tiny brush strokes. hypothetically, right? That's the idea, at least, of using the selection tool. Now let's take the old paint bucket. And all that time that I spent using like Microsoft Paint back in the day has really come in handy with on this work, because I did some pretty detailed stuff on that for being a child using a really basic program. Because now that I'm doing this digital stuff with a Cintiq and actually I don't know, does that work? The purple background? I guess if I make the sky purple and the other one's right, then it should work. At least it'll be uniform across the board, so to speak. Let's see how it would look over here, as I don't use the selection tool. And as it, yeah, see, that's why I use the selection tool. So I'm using this oil brush because I don't know what other people use to paint on these. Because again, I haven't looked. I haven't just watched the video about coloring. I just try to figure it out all on my own. One has to wonder, if I had education, would I be any better than I am? And there's a question, right? Would I even be any better? One would hope so, at least, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that have education that are really dumb. In a lot of ways. I mean, that looks kind of cool, right? It looks like nighttime. I might as well finish this up, though. So I've noticed in a lot of the old way of coloring, in order to show black spots, like highlights on something that is black, they left room for the colorist to put in blue. Obviously, they drew highlights with white initially, but obviously, if you have something that's black, it's not exactly a white highlight on something, it's just a lighter shade of black. So they used blue, which is cool. Especially with hair, it looks pretty neat. So like Wonder Woman has really dark black hair. So I think I'm going to do these by hand later. The little spots there. Because, I'll tell you why, I'm going to do it that way. Because I want those white highlights on the rope to stay there. For now. We might put brown in there later. But I don't want to mess that up. So, Yes, I am using a green screen. I'm not actually in front of a giant computer screen. But yeah. Yeah, man, I enjoy this green screen that my beautiful bride got me. It has worked out well, I think, in that I don't have to pick up the room, all the clothes on the couch I should be folding instead of streaming. I don't have to do those before I stream. I can just continue to be lazy. Or like the children's books that are on the floor. I mean, it's not like terribly messy. It's a fairly clean room. But, you know. How are you doing today, there, sir? Yeah, the Saguaro is see-through. I think it's kind of cool. It adds something, right? So what I'm coloring here, for those of you who have just joined, is a pirate comic that I've made called Swords and Sails. It's a pretty bland name, but that's what I'm going with for now. I drew this using pen and ink and this pocket brush and fountain pen. You can see this is like a brush tip. Pretty fun. Trying to get the hang of using a brush to ink with, so I can improve my skills as an artiste. And I said this a couple times now. What I'm doing is I'm using just a simple color palette in order to see what that looks like with my art, because I'm not the greatest colorist in the world. So if I do it simple, is it going to look too simple and childish? Or is it going to look cool? Like classic? I'm hoping for classic. But I'm expecting childish. So there's the backgrounds for that bad boy. See, if it was a modern comic, you'd have more shading because of this lightning strike here. So of course this last panel, the way I initially drew it made no sense because there's smoke rising from this barrel and the ball from the flintlock or whatever this is, pistol, is like 2 inches away. I'm fairly certain it would travel faster than the smoke rising that high. So we painted over that for now. Because that's the beauty of digital, right? But I could have used this fancy whiteout and just done it right on the panel, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with that. So I just decided to do it digitally. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to see what just doing like simple shading does for us. So like if we go in here and we lower down this opacity, we can, that's bad. I don't know, does that look, does that kind of give it a three-dimensional look? Possibly. But wasn't that what the hatching was for? All these little marks I drew with a pin and a brush? Isn't that what that was for? Why add this? I don't know. Spread of lies. I don't know. I think that looks kind of cool. What do you guys think? Do you like it? Do you like the look of it? I don't like that. Andrew says if the universe is 2D, as scientists suggest, does that mean that flat earthers are correct? I have not heard that scientists suggest that. But if that is something they suggest, the universe is 2D. I don't even know. I can't even comprehend what that means. Because I can feel the shape of something. I can feel the curvature of something. Then, but I guess if it is 2D, then technically flat earthers are correct. But I don't know what it means. I don't know what, I'd have to read an article about that to know what the heck that means. Looks well shaded. Okay, yeah. I mean, simple, right? That's what I'm going for. Then it's working. The question is, does lightning have a shade to it? Like, does it have a dark part of, is there a darker part of lightning? Like that? I doubt it, right? But if I put like gold or a different color yellow on here, then that defeats the purpose of what I'm going for. Possibly. That's the question, at least. And I'm looking lean. Why, thank you. I've been working out, you know. So look at those giant muscles, right? I've been working out a lot. So I've lost like only a couple pounds since I started working out a lot more, but it wasn't really about losing weight. And people I haven't seen in a while, they're all saying like, wow, you're looking a lot stronger. You're looking buff, some people have said. And I said, oh, well, that's kind of you to say that. Like, no, I mean it. All right. You know, I'm gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, right? Especially if that gift horse is me. So if you want to see, this is what the computer. So this program I'm using, Clip Studio Paint, that I got for Christmas. Body is not well shaded. My body, or this gentleman here. So I got this program for Christmas. Anyways, you can use it to color for you. So let's turn this off, and then I'll show you what it did. It did this. That's what it suggested. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like with that underneath. Pretty neat, huh? Looks kind of cool. Almost pure white. Yeah. Try to stay out of that sun, you know? But if I put light on me in this, then I just blend into these white backgrounds. But it's all good. It's all good. There's the man's face. Interesting. Oh, okay, that's why. Let's go in these colors. And let's find us a brown. So here you have, this is a DC color guide for someone who might have just joined. This is a DC color guide. And it was apparently from 1982, I think it says. And someone scanned this in, and then they made the colors in CMYK, which is for printing, and RGB, which is for the produces colors that can't be printed. I think that's what I heard. So I found this online like 5 minutes before I started the stream. I was like, I'm using that. So auto coloring is decent. Seems like you could do that and then correct for your needs. Yeah, I mean, I've seen other people do this where they basically paint, they put a little bit of color in something, and then they use some sort of program in this program, so some sort of command, and then it fully colors it in what colors they wanted. So you just put like a little swatch, and then it goes, does it all for you. But I haven't figured out how to do that because, again, I don't watch the tutorials for more than 3 seconds. But yeah, it even was like just a filter over top of it. Like, it actually figured out what I wanted. Like, it's got shading, and like it knew it was supposed to be dark in areas, and then like especially with a gunshot, like over here is dark and over here is brighter, and it made it red. Like, how did it know? It's kind of creepy. I haven't decided on what colors this other pirate here that he's fighting, what color his clothes are going to be, so that's why I'm not doing them yet. I don't know. I don't know if he's a recurring villain or not. Uh-oh, he's the villain. I spoiled it. Ooh, you know what's going to be interesting? I'll have to look at some comics on a pirate ship, and see what they did for boots, because if I make brown boots, obviously it's gonna not distinguish itself from the brown of the ship. So I might need to just make their boots black. No brown boots for these guys. Although I prefer brown boots in real life. I guess I don't have to just project all of my idiosyncrasies onto these characters. Alright, I think that is most of this. Let's see. We shall find out.
Christopher Robin, what exactly is doing nothing?
Well, I don't know, Winnie the Pooh.
Going along, listening to all the things you can't hear, and not bothering.
We'll use the brush, the rest of this, or not. Why is it doing that? I don't know. Whoops. AI, yeah, dude. AI for sure. It's scary. Soon they're gonna take over, like... Why is it even doing that? I'm coloring on the right layer. I don't understand. You shouldn't even be able to detect these lines, you stupid thing. I did that all on the wrong one. I'm so dumb. Well, that was fun. Let's get rid of all of that. Alright, the good news is we can just switch layers and do it over again. See, that was a lot easier. I was wondering, I was like, why is this not working? Why does this look so stupid? Oh. Oh, what the? What in the world? You watch Sanderson give a lecture about world building. He talked about writing people who are different from you. He almost seems too sensitive to it, which I have felt a bit in the books, specifically Stormlight ones. You think he writes too dissimilar from himself? Is that what you're saying? Or not dissimilar enough? I sometimes think I've had mixed feelings on this over the years. I think there's a review at my website that of one of the Mistborn books that I probably wouldn't agree with anymore. At least not exactly what I said. But sometimes his characters get pretty annoying. And I think over time I've kind of gotten some of his characters are way better than others. I've watched a lot of those Brandon Sanderson lectures where he talks about writing. And I don't know if how much I've actually gained from them. I think if I was in the class and actually paying attention and getting the feedback and everything. Because it's the lectures in his class that he teaches at BYU, I think you're talking about. And at least those ones I watched. So this part of this is brown. So we'll just go ahead and color that all we can. Tries to include every kind of person under the sun, like almost hits the inclusive or inclusive sake zone. I thought maybe you possibly meant that, and then I didn't ask about it. Yeah. I think you might be right. I think the problem with books trying to be inclusive of everything under the sun is the world isn't like that. Especially going back into history. And in his Stormlight books, he has all these different... So I want to say the word race, but I don't like... They're all from that planet. So they're like ethnicities, I guess, but they're like super different. Like some of them have like super long eyebrows that are like, you know, coming off their face long. But I think they're all... not humanoid, whatever the world is. And I don't know, sometimes it just don't make sense. But his world building usually is pretty good. Oh, we can do the ropes as well. Or should I go lighter on the ropes? Yeah, I think I'm gonna go lighter on the ropes. With some other sort of color from my color palette. this needs shading. So let's go back up here. They are humans. Right, yeah. I mean, they're humanoid type creatures, whatever that means. They may not be Terrans, but they're wherever. And they can all, like, it's not like a, but I don't know how it works in Stormlight. I'm pretty sure in, I could be wrong, but I think in Mistborn, weird enough, the like Koloss and humans have interbred or something. Outright said the main ones are Asian. He just called them Asians. Like the... Like... Koloss are humans. Oh, they were changed though, right? Like, yeah, that's right. Been a while since I read them. But how does it work in, like in the Parshendi and whatever the other people there in the Stormlight, like, do they interbreed?
Hope everything turns out okay.
I don't know. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense what I've done here. We gotta get rid of the shadow because that doesn't make any sense. There's already a dark shadow. I could outline it a little bit with a lighter shadow, but I can't like make it all expansive like that. Because that ain't the way shadows work. I still don't think it's the way shadows work. That's why they always describe the Shin as round childlike eyes like a European. Huh. Weird. Never thought about that. Which is interesting because the Shin, I think, are more Asian-like in terms of culture. I don't know. I don't know about all that, dude. None of my business. Weird. Hadn't thought about that kind of thing with that series. Right, which one of these colors looks like it'd be good for ropes? Let's try this one. Huh. I'll have to go back and read that. I don't know, that's gonna... See... That's one of the things about, like, having access to more information out of a book is, like, sometimes you don't glean all the things people are trying to say or trying to communicate in a book. And so you have this idea of what the book is in your head. And it gets, not spoiled, but, like... It changes when you learn more information about it. And I highly doubt that Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere novels are ever going to be adapted. Like, I think a Chinese company bought them. Not going to happen. It just seems, I don't know. Like, I don't think fantasy, I mean, Game of Thrones already spoiled everybody, everybody that was liking fantasy because that happened. I mean, I didn't even watch the show, but like, I read the books. I didn't really care to watch it. What was I saying? I don't think that market, that they actually took advantage of the market they were trying to create. So I think people are just done with fantasy. And then there was follow-up stuff, like they adapted the Shannara Chronicles, which is Terry Brooks' series, which anyone that's read Terry Brooks knows. I mean, no offense to the man, but he's no George R. R. Martin. Or Brandon Sanderson. He was just early, so he had a lot of success. But that was terrible. It was on MTV. It was garbage. Oh man, we watched the first season, the complete first season, and it was like, why did we waste our time with this? This is just awful. And I felt bad for having watched it. And I actually have that book and I've read it. Well, it's not like my favorite book or anything. It was entertaining. It was like so I read it sort of before we watched the show, and I was like, this doesn't even have enough plot to develop into a show. Like, what are they gonna do? It just didn't seem like a good thing to make into a show, and it wasn't. There's supposed to be an Amazon Lord of the Rings of some kind in the works. Yeah. I don't know. It's like Silmarillion stuff, I think. Just seems really weird. I don't know. I don't know about that. And Amazon's also adapting the Wheel of Time books, which I'm not the hugest fan of, but I have literally all of them in print. I've bought them. I bought the first book, and I was like, I read it because it's supposed to be this classic of fantasy literature, and Brandon Sanderson finished them after the one guy died. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll read it. I read the first book and I was like, it was a slog to get through, and I got to the end and I was like, it sort of got me a little hyped. So I went and got the second book and I read it, and I like got to this part and the characters were just so dumb. So dumb. I hated them so much, and I was so mad at them that I just stopped, took the book, immediately got both of the first and second book that I owned, and took them to a used bookstore and sold them, and said, I'm done with these. But then I was like, all right, well, maybe I should give them a second chance at some point in my life. So then I just looked for them at Goodwill and bought them for like $1 each. So I do have them, but I'm thinking like the fourth book, and they have not gotten better. Sanderson stuff could do well as video games because there are rules and limitations to the powers. I agree. I think that's the best bet, is to make new stories in his worlds with the video games, not adaptions necessarily. Because I just don't think, like, his worlds and his stories, it's too big, and nobody wants fantasy stuff. Like, they made that Witcher on Netflix, and I don't know how well that's doing. Because it's hard to gauge Netflix's truthfulness in terms of how many people are watching their shows. Because they've changed the definition of view, apparently. Like, it used to be 20, I think, a certain percentage of the show. Now it's like essentially 2 minutes. If someone watches 2 minutes of a show, that counts as a view. So, I don't really care about whether or not Netflix succeeds or not, but It'd be nice to know what people are actually watching on there, or how well things are doing. To see how the market for fantasy stuff is actually doing. Not that they care. Unfortunately, you don't see it happening. Okay, I have heard good stuff on Witcher from people who are at work, who you work with, who are not nerds. Well, that's good, I suppose, because that's the thing. Like, somebody who's really into the Witcher books, I don't know that those people exist, but somebody who's really into the Witcher games, they're probably gonna like it regardless. It's like, oh my word, it's The Witcher and it's a TV show now. But I have seen people be like, oh, it needed more of this character or this one. But if normies, people don't even read fantasy books or play lots of video games, like something, that might mean at least that show will continue. And maybe Netflix and some of these other streaming services will take chances on some other fantasy stuff. Because especially after Terry Brooks stuff flopped so hard, it was just like, oh my gosh. Like, the first season was better than the second. I couldn't even finish the second season. You watch the first season and we're like, all right, at least we had the plot of the books portrayed. But then we watched the second season and we're like, I'm done. I'm done. You know what I would like to see adapted, I think can work, is the King Killer Chronicle. That, I think, has the potential, just because it's more of a character-driven thing rather than a plot-driven thing. And so it doesn't need to be... I just think it could be handled well. And the Witcher books have jumped in buys on Audible from last time you looked at the bestsellers in fantasy sci-fi category. That's good. That's the good thing, is I think that these... these adaptions have led people into the genre that weren't there before. There's people that do YouTube shows that they didn't even read or watch any kind of science fiction or fantasy stuff before Game of Thrones happened. And now they like run a YouTube channel about nerdy stuff because they started with Game of Thrones and then Game of Thrones ended, and it's like, well, we can't keep talking about this. There's definitely led new people into such a nerdy field. Oh my word. So I think we need to figure out some sort of shading on this to make it look like the lightning's actually flashing. Because it looked like, if you take off the colors, right? I mean, that looks like the lightning's actually flashing, and you have their shadows being on the deck there, you know. And then even with the gray, that looks... I could probably do a better job with that, but put the colors on there, and it doesn't look as flashy. Mistborn Era 2 Forward, or Plus, has potential due to the non-sword and wand fantasy. Yeah. It's almost like since it's Western set and a fantasy world, it's almost like steampunky, but not too steampunky, not where it gets that weird steampunky, right? The right amount of like real Old West type stuff and technology that doesn't exist in our world. And the powers are really cool. So I think those would be good. But the original Mistborn series, just adapt the first book if they're going to adapt it, like, and then maybe merge the 2 and 3 together into something manageable. But I think it works better as having been the history of the stuff and not necessarily as books themselves, as stories themselves. They work better as, in hindsight, like at the time that I read them, I was just like, all of this was completely pointless because you build this society, and then, spoiler alert, for reasons, the society does not exist anymore. So it works better in hindsight after having read the books, but at the time, I didn't know that they were making, that he was going to write more, and so it just seemed like a complete waste of my time. At least the plot of it did. I liked the characters, though. But they're tiresome. Having seen him write better characters, they're way more tiresome now.
You know, back when I was in the academy, we would follow every toast with a song.
Stuff like that would be different from Game of Thrones and the like. Yeah, his would be a lot more fun than Game of Thrones. People got into Game of Thrones for the twists and turns of the thing, but I don't. I think if you just had fun characters, people could get into that. The society sort of persists. Yeah, that's the thing. At the time, I didn't know it was going to. It just seemed like, why did we waste our time setting up this government and all this stuff? And I mean, it's not fun to read. Those parts are basically entirely skippable. Like, you don't know, why do I need to know how their government works in a fantasy world other than that they have like a parliamentary? Okay, it's a parliamentary procedure thing. Okay, got it. Good to go. But if once you read those, see, it works better. It's like a history of the world. So I don't want to read the history of the world. I want to see events unfold. I want to see fun things happening. You think Secret History is the way to read books 2+3? Yeah, I agree. Basically, just the short version as Kelsier roams around. Hello, little Dame 10, watching on Mixer. Thank you. Hello, welcome. I'm coloring this comic I drew. It's about pirates. It's called Swords and Sails. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you stick around, see what we're doing, and chat with us. We're talking about fantasy books, mostly about Brandon Sanderson stuff. What we like about Brandon Sanderson, what we don't like. Have you read fantasy books, little Dame? Let me know. Yeah, Secret History. He's definitely grown. He grew a lot by writing the Wheel of Time books, which I haven't read. But just judging from his work pre-writing those and then after, I think those helped him grow, writing in somebody else's world. Oh, Lady Vixen is here. Says, wow, that's a change. With the colors and everything with it. Yeah. So I don't know if you saw Lady Vixen if you were watching, but I'm using this DC color guide that I found online 5 minutes before I started the stream. And it has all these swatches of like the classic colors. So I'm using that. We're seeing how it looks. So far, it looks all right. I like this first panel better than the second one. We'll have to noodle around with the second one to get it where I want it. But I don't want to do too much highlights. But I might have to do some. Just because of the design. Like if I went in here with a lighter brown of some sort. Let's see. So the issue is you only have so much to choose from here. But that's kind of the point, right? Simplicity. So like if I'm going to put a new panel in here. If I threw in highlights in here, you know, like this. Or even more, like, you know. What I'd usually do is do something like that, and then I'd take this blend tool, and I'd like blend it in. But that's not what I'm trying to do. I don't want to just give it that airbrushed look. So that's what I'd usually do, is something like that, which doesn't look bad, but it's not what I'm wanting to do. So. Now, Lady Vixen, you have read the Mistborn books, and I think you have also. Have you read the Wax and Wayne books? Have you read all of those, or just the first one? I can't recall. We'll leave this for now, but we have to put back on this. Andrew says, the Khandra are like a bunch of creepy Odos. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to explain them. And they're just rolling around. They're even creepier in the Wax and Wayne books because they're not as restrained. Apparently. Yes, you've read all of them. What did you like better? The first series or the Wax and Wayne books? So, Vin and Kelsier and all them, or an Elend, or the Wax and Wayne books. Andrew and I have voted for the Wax and Wayne books. So, there's a right answer here. You don't want to be wrong. No, there's no right answer. You can have your own opinion. Let's see what this color looks like his skin. Ooh. Jaundice. Oh, my skin is jaundiced. I can't really see that. Move. Yeah. Jaundice. He's got jaundice now. I don't want him to have jaundice. If I hadn't already determined myself to only use those colors, I would just go in here and I'd like throw some highlights on his face and his head and stuff across here maybe. Like, oh yeah, I'll just highlight his nose. And maybe I will. Why restrain myself? I can still use these classic colors, sort of, and do it this way too, right? No, that looks terrible. You enjoyed both of them. They're different styles, but I guess the Waxilium ones were more fun. Okay. I don't. For me, I think ultimately the second and third books of the first series were just kind of superfluous. Andrew suggested earlier that, I don't know if you've listened to the Secret History book or read that, but it's basically what's Kelsier doing during the second and third books, and he suggested that that's really a better way to read that series. At least the second and third books. Because once the first book is concluded, it's like, why it doesn't really, there's no real reason to read the second and third one. But if you like them, that's cool. That's fine. It's okay to like things that I do not. I take that statement back. It's okay to like things that I did not like as much as you like them. That's better. That's more diplomatic. I don't dislike the books. But I do disagree with the review I did with them on my website, flyfoxproductions.com. I don't necessarily completely agree with what I had to say at the time. My opinion has changed. in hindsight. You think you started that one but never got far into it. I'm guessing you're talking about Secret History. Okay.
Bears and horses and dogs and dogs and bears and horses and dogs.
Also, listening to Secret History was the way to go, as opposed to reading it. I'm guessing, you know, having it read to you. Okay.
Dear me.
Lady Vixen says, I would probably agree with you that the wax Western ones are better and more enjoyable, but you did like the originals. That's fine. I liked them too, in a way. But you probably liked them more than Andrew was saying. The only Sanderson books I've actually read are the Skyward and Now in the Middle of Starsight. So I actually read, like in my hands read, the Mistborn books and the first Wax and Wane. What else? I think possibly Steelheart. I'm trying to remember what else. But I've listened to a lot of them. Like I said, I see things. Yeah, that's the point, and that's what's good about the world that he created. That's the thing I like about Brandon Sanderson is he makes worlds that you can tell other stories in, which I think we've seen. The problem with Star Wars is people aren't willing to do that. But it's a lot like Star Wars, and here's this world that you can tell any kind of story in. It doesn't have to be this Skywalker Jedi fantasy. It's a huge, giant universe. And Sanderson does a good job of setting up worlds where you can just tell different stories. You don't want to spend an Audible credit on the Skyward books, I'm guessing you mean. Heyo. Yeah, I don't even know what other books to recommend, honestly, for audibling it up. Because Wheel of Time books are super long, but they're not worth reading or listening to. So, I'm sure if, like, some Wheel of Time fan is watching, they're gonna just, like, jump on me, but, God, I'm not a fan of those. I want to finish them just for the sake of, like, trying to figure out, like, I can possibly see what people liked about them, but why that people have stuck with them, a lot of people have not. A lot of people abandon them, or know that they got kind of worse. But if they got worse as they go on, so it's said that they've gotten worse by people that were actually fans of the first books, which I'm not. But, so I can't recommend those. The Codex Alera series is okay by Jim Butcher, but I don't remember them being particularly long. And it's Jim Butcher, so they're not like incredibly deep. No offense to Jim Butcher. I don't think he'd take offense to that. But at least I hope they're good, they're fun. But I don't like them as much as I say like the Brandon Sanderson's books. I totally forgot that we painted over this. It's all good. Yeah. We need to figure out what we're going to do with this. So obviously, I think I've determined that smoke would not rise that faster than the bullet, unless this bullet is traveling like Mach -1 million. So we're going to have to get rid of that. What in the world? Oh, it keeps doing that. There's supposed to be one more Wax and Wayne book, then Scadrial is moving to the digital era. Or maybe something cyberpunk-like. Yeah, I've heard that. It'll be interesting to see how it works out. It'll be interesting to see how Brandon Sanderson does it. Like I said earlier, I think his world lends itself to telling stories because his magic systems are so coherent and not rooted in, like, witchcraft magic, but, like, here's an X-Men power that you can do in this world. I think they can continue into the world, but we'll see how he does, because I haven't read Starsight. I think that's a science fiction one, but like his Legion books are interesting. They're real short. They're like novellas. Those are interesting and kind of, those are more modern times. And Steelheart, they're pretty good, but those are more like, those ones are more YA. So we'll see how he does with a longer book like that. Muzzle Flash is a good visual. Yeah. I think I might expand it though. I might come out here with some more lines and make it bigger. Lady Vixen asks, what about the Dresden Files? Have you read those? I have read them. Skip the first book. Just skip the first book and go straight into the second one if you're going to read them. He wrote the first book as he started it, at least. I don't know if he finished it, but he started it, writing it to spite his creative writing teacher for the master's program he was in. Because she said she had like a system, a way to work out books and plot them. And he's like, oh, that's not, like, artists don't write like that. And so then he wrote it. And while it's not the worst book I've ever read, it's not as good as the other ones. It'll be perfectly fine starting with the second one. It won't harm you at all, and you'll miss out. You'll skip over like dumb stuff that it's not as good. So if you are going to read those, start with the second one, and they get more. So those are Jim Butcher books. I don't know if I mentioned them before. That's the same person that wrote the Codex Alera series, and they get progressively like this. There's a greater story that's unfolding throughout them, but each one is self-contained, and that there's like it's described as by Jim Butcher as the worst weekend in that character's life. So like for that year, so he has like one weekend a year where he has an adventure that happens that's worth writing about, and so they're all self-contained. but they build on each other, and a bigger world unfolds. They are shorter. They're not as long. I know you like the long books because you're listening to them. So you prefer to get your money's worth, I believe. So maybe use Overdrive, get a library card and use Overdrive and check those out occasionally when you get them. When you like, you're probably gonna have to reserve a copy and then read those to be able to read those. But then, like, when it pops up and you actually have it, you'll you can just like put down whatever else you're reading and listen to those. Hopefully you have enough time. This chair is nice. Yeah, some really nice people picked it out for me for Christmas, and it is so much more comfortable than the other chair that I had before. While not terrible, was not conducive to sitting in for a long period of time. It was padded fabric, and it just got real hot down in the old bottom regions, you might say. And this one is all this mesh material you see right here, and it breathes a lot easier, so I don't get as hot. And it's still just as comfortable, if not more. So the people that picked this out for me, smart individuals, because I wanted to just get like a normal computer chair, and that's what I asked for, was more like one of those high-speed gaming chair looking things. And then I saw this on Christmas morning, and I was like, oh, that's not what I asked for. But it's way better. Mesh is the way to go in hotter climates. Yeah, even during winter, I would get hot in that other chair. So I'm definitely grateful for this gift that I received. I don't like that. I don't know. Should the muzzle flash be more expansive? I don't know. Like, looking at what I'm drawing here, I don't like it. Gaming chairs are not worth it, but can it do this? What? Can it do what? I don't know what you mean. So I want to expand this muzzle flash, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if I just draw a couple of flashes, like, get rid of that. Like, nope, that don't work either.
Let's go.
Take those pills. Take those pills. Here you go. Itching, sweating, take those pills.
Oh, PewDiePie reference. I don't watch enough PewDiePie, I guess. I guess I'm just not meme worthy. So, this is the original drawing as I scanned it. And it had that flash around it like that. But I like the littler flash better. So, I don't know. Looks a lot darker in this last panel with the computer's coloring job. It's kind of crazy how good it did. Like, it's so much better than mine. No, it's not. It's just different. He had a chair that he sold that leaned back all the way, and he would say that while he leaned it back. That is cool. See, that's kind of cool. That's funny. But can it do this? Let us try something new for a change. Without lines, what if we just did something like that? No, it doesn't work. Don't like it. Not even going to take your votes. I think the X pattern works. So, putting back what I erased. And like just, I can redo the painting job. Just getting rid of the smoke part of it. And then sort of highlight the, okay, let's see that. We'll try that. Because the smoke is dumb. I mean, it makes no... I don't usually get miffed at... okay. I don't usually get upset about, like, in movies and stuff when physics aren't... I don't get too upset in most things when physics are wrong, but I don't want to do it. I mean, you shouldn't, like, try for that. So how are we going to color this is the question. So you think the X pen works? It shows the explosion. Yeah. That is not what we want. We want this one or this one. So we'll go on this layer here, just because we're trying to work it out and see what we like about it or what we don't like about it. But if we like scratched it in here, it's definitely going to need something other than just the yellow, though. We might have to throw some red in there. Or some orange or something. And it would probably need to come over the barrel. Like be on top of it. What are the Dresden books about? They're about a private eye who's also a wizard. Who lives in Chicago. And he fights various fantasy creatures and other magical people. They're basically mystery books with magic. So, if that's something you're into, they're definitely, I mean, they're fun. You should read the second hard magic book too. Me too. I have it on my nightstand. It's been there for like a year and a half. Larry Correa books are longer. Did you read his Saga of the Black Sword? I haven't read that one, but I don't know if you've read that. But the first one was fun. The first hard magic book was good. Grim Noir Chronicles, I think, is the series actual name, if I'm remembering correctly. So we'd really have to go in and close off the, basically, we'd have to make it more like that. Like, it's just exploding from the end of the barrel, and you don't see. But yeah, that's not too much to erase, actually. So we'll try it. We'll try it your way. You don't know if you want more from that series, though. You like the first book. Yeah, I can understand that idea. Sometimes a series is just like that. You don't need more of it. Like you've had enough of it. It's satisfied, but it didn't really create a... I've read some of the second one, and what I have read is as good as the first one. I mean, Larry Correa is nothing if not consistent, but I think that's pretty much all he has going for him. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I think someone disagrees with me. But I can't speak to like the rest of this, you know, if it is. It's good because I haven't finished it, so you know. No one wanted the Lost World. Right, like Lost World, Jurassic Park, unnecessary. Yeah. I agree. So don't like all these little marks I've made. I don't think it looks good. Like just around the barrel. That looks good. And then we'll just have to see if we can't find some shapes in here. Or finish, or, you know, actually go in here and draw some explosions and color it correctly instead of just scribbling it everywhere. The Monster Hunter books were good. Apparently there was a new one that was written by him and another person. Reviews are not as good. That series was good, but I think it suffered from upping the stakes too much. Yeah, the Monster Hunter books are interesting in that, like, the first one is kind of terrible, but at least it's kind of compelling enough to go forward. So is that the one he wrote with? Because there's two series that are like co-written, and I'm not sure if the newest one's out. He co-wrote one with John Ringo, which I've not read, and he co-wrote one with Sarah Hoyt, which I've not read. So which one is not as good? I'm guessing the Sarah Hoyt one. Yeah, definitely work that needs to be done on it. Figure out the coloring on that and the explosion pattern. But I'm liking what we're throwing down there. And what I might do is is go in here and add like, not that one, not that color. That color doesn't work. Maybe just white. No, what is it doing? Why is it doing this to me? I just want white. White paint. Why are you gray? I don't know why it's doing that. Anyways, this has been fun. It's been real. And we got pretty far. I mean, I didn't color this guy, and there's still work to be done, but we did a lot, and it looks pretty halfway decent. So thanks to everybody who watched. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe, like, share if you want to. You don't have to, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, adios. I'm heading out. I hope you liked it. Join me again some other time. Wait, before I go, I don't want to miss this comment. So I'm back to discuss this. Sarah Hoyt. The other books are in the universe, but not in the series. But this one is part of the actual series, Guardian. I thought it was another spin-off. Isn't it focusing on Julie? Lame. But I'm not surprised because I have... So Baen, the publisher of these books, Larry Correa and Sarah Hoyt books, most of them, are... they put out a lot of books for free, and I downloaded one of the Sarah Hoyt books. I didn't get very far. Wasn't a fan. So I'm not that surprised. But I don't know, I haven't read it myself, so I can't judge this particular book. Only the information I'm going off of. Which is, you know... Oh, I'm moving. Alright. I really am leaving this time. Adios. Goodbye. Farewell.